2011 was a massive fire season in the Southwest, and a lot of people put a lot of energy into studying what went on in those wildfires. And I think once sort of the summer settled down, the fires were out, a lot of the research was sort of rolling along. People started to think about the fact that there's not a good structure for scientists to interact who think about wildfires.
So are most fire diverse low hazard?
The goal is really to get agencies to talk to one another and to get academics and students to talk to these agencies and just to have a sort of informal understanding of the way forward for our next big fire season.
Well, the biggest thing they need to know is post-fire, what the watershed response and what that means to them and where they're living. So public safety, what are the safety concerns? And also what programs are out there that can help them post-fire, as far as working with agencies like NRCS and finding out information that can actually, so they can be proactive and help themselves as well.
There's different agencies that sort of speak different languages between the agencies. And there's people like me that come from academia that just need to understand the rules and regulations and who works at what agency and how do we actually do this kind of science in collaboration with these agencies.
I helped monitor while the contractors were putting in different restoration techniques. Well, not restoration, the post-fire implementation.
Okay.
So one of the big things we did on the Monument Fire in Ash and Miller Canyon was we seeded first and then mulched on top of that.
You can't study a fire with just hydrologists. You can't study a fire with just geomorphologists. You can't study a fire with just botanists or someone who studies plants. These people need to come together and really think about the physics of what's going on. And some of the physics involve the type of plants that were on the landscape. The chemistry of the soil can be very important. And then, of course, the meteorologists and the hydrologists tell us a lot about the water coming in and the water going out. And then people like me, the geomorphologists, are really interested in how is erosion occurring, where is it occurring on the landscape, how much sediment is moving, and what can we learn about studying these fires that might allow us to predict or warn people downstream who are really affected by not just floods, but by this huge amount of sediment that can be produced from these fires.
The park was significantly impacted. Earlier in that year, there had been a fire up in the headwaters. It was the 103 fire that had started on the other side of the mountains over here, down near the border, and had come up. And it wasn't a really hot fire. It burned these oak grass woodlands. Most of it was pretty moderate. It looked pretty, from my perspective of not doing vegetation, it looked pretty good in June before this debris flow event happened at the very end of July. Phil and I had come out and checked out a couple of these channels after the fire, so we had some nice photos, especially one of the channels up here at a curve called the 6300 curve.
The biggest issue is the timeliness of being able to provide information to the public in an expedient fashion, implement treatments if there are feasible treatments, and make people aware of what's going on. And just the larger the fire, the more resources you need. If you start having those fires, ongoing, you start losing resources available to help work on the fires. There seems to be a trend of increasing size in fires, and that correlates directly to increasing watershed response in certain areas. Again, it all depends on weather systems and rainfall that occurs and that type of thing. But yeah, over the last few years, we have seen a trend of larger fires and some bigger responses.
On a more practical level, I wanted to know sort of who the key players are and who the people of different agencies are to contact in the future to continue to do this kind of work when we have future fires. I know who the people are, I've met the people, and I can access these situations and study them in the future.
To know how to feed good information and consistent information to the public is something that's really important post-fire, and display those hazards so that they are accurate in what they might expect, especially concerning life and safety downstream.